Hey guys, Paul here, and I made this super duper grill scraper out of a scrap piece of walnut that I have. Added a nice leather strap so I can hang it on the grill. Added this copper ferrule that can give it a little bit of strength, but really it's more for looks. I love the combination of copper and walnut. You may have noticed that on some other projects that I've done. And then I added this grill scraper attachment that was very inexpensive out on Amazon. I'll give you a link to that down below. Without further ado, let me dive in and start making some chips. As with many turning projects, the action gets started over at the bandsaw, where I'm ripping a blank down to just under 2 inches square by about 10 inches long. And I just mount it between centers on my 24-36 lathe and make it round using a spindle roughing gouge. Once it's round, I use a ruler and set a 4-inch spot for the handle, and now I'm marking 1/2-inch intervals where I'll use to set the spacing for the beads that I'll turn on the handle. And I'm marking the spacing again, this time going in at some depth using a skew chisel, and this will just kind of set the depth that I'm going to go for on the beads. Now I'm using a spindle detail gouge to start rounding over the beads. Now it's just a personal preference, but I like to do all of one side. Here I'm doing the left, and then I will, when I finish that row, I'll turn around and do all of the right sides of the bead. I'm just kind of starting near the center and gradually rolling toward the groove that I milled. And you just kind of want to get into a rhythm with this. That's why I like doing one side of the beads first, and then here you see me switching over and doing the other sides of the beads. That repetition helps me with consistency, and it just kind of makes the process work a little bit better for me. After all the beads are formed on the hand grip, I start to form the shaft, and here I'm using the spindle gouge again just to form that shape, and where I'm tapering down from the hand grip down to the shaft. And once I get that shaped kind of how I want it, I switch over to the spindle roughing gouge, which is really going to just be the tool for removing the bulk of the waste. And this will help me get very quickly down to the approximate size that I'm looking for. Now to set the taper on the end, or excuse me, the tenon on the end, I'm measuring the inside of my ferrule. This is a copper slip coupler that I cut 1/2 of it off. So I'm just now marking the positioning of that ferrule on the shaft, and I'm going to turn that down to 7/8 of an inch to allow it to fit. I went a little deeper than I wanted to. It's a slight friction fit. I would have preferred to have tapped that on. It really doesn't matter on this because it is a lighter weight. It's really not providing a ton of strength, or it doesn't need to provide a ton of strength. If you were doing this on a turning a handle for a bowl gouge or something, you would want that fit to be more perfect, but I'm not too worried about it just as a decoration here. I'm going to glue it on later, which is again not what you would want to do on a gouge handle, but for this it's going to be just fine. Now I'm just doing some burning. I like this as a decorative detail in the slots between the beads, and just get it spinning at a high RPM. I think I was at about 1300. You could go faster than that, but that did the job just fine here. Then I'm using Mylan's friction polish, which is a great product for spindle turning. If you're not familiar with it, check it out. You can make your own using various concoctions that are out there, but this is the real thing, and it's really a nice product. The thing I love about it so much is it builds to a great glossy finish, that is very, very hard, and I think it's quite beautiful. But the fact that it dries almost instantly and allows you to build up by just adding more coats on top of one another, builds very quickly and very nicely. And then here, as promised, I'm gluing the ferrule on, and it was definitely a little too loose on there, and that made it very solid. And just cutting it off the lathe using a hand saw, some light sanding to clean up that end, and then I just hit it with the finish again. I'm drilling holes to mount the scraper in. Found the right drill bit size and drilled one hole, and then I used a drill bit set in the hole to set a spacing so that I would drill those holes right next to each other, and then inserted them. I had a thought of putting a couple dabs of glue in there, but it really was so tight that there was no need for that, and that'll make it easier to replace that if that ever gets gunked up on the grill, which I'm sure it will. Then just inserted a leather strap in there, and it's good to go. Works great on the grill. Thanks for watching. If you have questions, feel free to ask them down below, and hope you'll subscribe and come back to the Tool Metrics channel. Thank you.